This episode of The Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Audible.com. Coming up, some crazy stuff happened at this year's Comic-Con, and we were there.
So we are here at the last night for us of Comic-Con.
The evening of the end.
Yes, the evening of the end. And you have just seen our panel and the time we have spent here at the con. Now we're going to wrap up some of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about during the panel. And
There's so much stuff that happens at Comic-Con, although I will say, I think this Comic-Con overall was a very confused Comic-Con. This was sort of the Comic-Con that was just about to hit puberty and went to prom and didn't really know what was what.
Yeah.
Because everything was on its ear this year.
Yeah.
Hall H line was like whatever. So all the usual big studio stuff that happens in Hall H that you have to stay in line from 7 a.m. to get into and be in all day wasn't really like that.
For the Comic-Con uninitiate, Hall H is where we spend most of our time. It's where all the big studios premiere their stuff.
It's the biggest of the venues to display things.
Exactly.
By far.
Second biggest of those venues is Ballroom 20, which is where all the TV stuff is premiered. This year, Hall H, very thin. Ballroom 20, packed to the gills, and it's indicative of scheduling, but also of what's in the zeitgeist here. TV has become...
I think it's a scheduling mishap, to be quite honest.
You don't think it's like TV now is like become...
No, I do, but I also think that that's poor scheduling on Comic-Con's part. To not recognize that.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah. But that being said, we saw some amazing things. We're gonna start off with the first thing we saw, mind-blowing maybe. We'll talk about that. Is Prometheus. Prometheus.
Oh, I loved everything that I saw of this. Oh wait, I wasn't at this panel.
Oh.
I was doing the Star Wars Old Republic panel,
That's
which
right.
I talked about
So,
how awesome
we'll
I
talk
was.
We'll talk about it. But then we saw something that he didn't
Exactly,
see.
yeah.
So Prometheus is what was known on the internet as the Alien prequel. What it actually is first and foremost the first science fiction film directed by Ridley Scott since Blade Runner, which came out in 1982. And they're poising it as aptly the first science fiction film from the filmmaker that defined science fiction or redefined science fiction.
Designed for our genre, our generation.
It stars Michael Fassbender and Charlize Theron and Noomi Rapace, which is the girl from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in the Swedish version. And what he said was, in the last 3 minutes of the movie, you will see its link to the Alien movies. I think that's leading to the Space Jockey.
Yeah, it started its life as an Alien prequel, and it became something completely different than that. It's a brand new IP.
So it's not face huggers, it's not an alien thing, but it is science fiction. It has the same kind of art direction.
Yes.
So those bubbly helmets of the space guys. I mean, like, it is a thrill.
They showed,
and shot in 3D, by the way. Ridley Scott movie shot in 3D.
I think that's the big headline of the whole panel was Ridley Scott saying the words, "I will never again make a movie that's not in 3D."
I don't know that he meant it that way.
That's what he said.
I know, but I just
he said even for dialogue scenes. Crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
But they showed us footage, actually quite a hefty chunk of footage, and then there was a really cool real-time uplink to Iceland, where Ridley Scott was.
Right.
Charlize Theron was on stage with Damon Lindelof, and Ridley Scott was satellited in.
Was it written by David Lindelof?
Written by Damon Lindelof, creator of Lost.
Wow, okay.
Head writer of Lost.
And
Star Trek.
I'm so excited for this property based on what I saw, because it's Ridley Scott, and he's excited about it, but B, because the visual look looks, he's built these sets. He said we could have gone CG and done everything in a CG world.
Yeah.
We built these sets, huge, sprawling, voluminous sets, and it looks so cool, it looks so real. I was thrilled. I was super excited. Yeah, I know you're excited too.
Yeah, I mean, like, absolutely.
Great actors.
Great actors, incredible. And I love that the science fiction, it still looks 70s, it still looks 70s future. Like, the great thing about Alien is that it's completely timeless. I've seen it recently in theaters, and like, everything is so tactile and worn and built in the first Alien, and it's the flavor of production design and costuming doesn't feel like dated science fiction. It really feels like...
It could be 20, 30, 40 years in our future.
It's worn and used
It's like what
But-
Battlestar got you.
Yeah.
Where everything feels like grungy,
Right, and Battlestar is
real.
heavily inspired by Alien.
Of course. Yeah.
Firefly / Serenity is heavily inspired by
course.
Alien. And this film has that same quality to it where like the people are in bubble helmet, so what I'm saying is it's not our idea of future now, and it's not our idea of future from the 70s. It's really interesting architecture, even in like the helmet, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of 60s-ish, but it's sort of future-y.
It's more
its own
timeless.
So it's its own thing. So
Yeah.
then it's timeless.
Yeah.
And the most exciting thing is Ridley Scott saying it's about big ideas.
Yeah.
He said this movie is about
I
everything.
think it's like Tree of Life.
Yeah,
like,
which,
or 2001,
sign
but
me
probably in
up.
a more rock and rolly way.
Yeah.
So
Lots of other stuff we saw
and
too.
3D,
Yep.
crazy. So we also got to check out Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yes, which is where I get revenge on them seeing Prometheus because Jeff couldn't see that.
Jeff was watching a pretty awesome movie.
Which
though,
we're going to be reviewing
later. So Snow White and the Huntsman. I'm very excited about this because it puts a spotlight on a filmmaker that I've been a huge fan of for years. His name's Rupert Sanders. He's a commercial director, and I dare say they open up this panel, which they've never done this before.
I've never seen that
on,
at all.
on
Yeah.
his director's reel. They showed 3 of his commercials, and I think it was the best thing they screened in Hall H this entire convention.
Yes, some of the better,
Really?
some of the best stuff. I
Really?
mean,
You've seen them, the Halo commercials.
Oh,
You know,
right.
but not all. But one of them
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
Halo
yeah.
commercial. But that being said, so it's Rupert Sanders directing for the
Yeah.
first time a movie. Kristen Stewart is Snow White. Chris Hemsworth is the Huntsman. New guy is the
well,
Prince.
no, he was the
and
guy in Pirates of the Caribbean on
Yeah,
Stranger
yeah.
Tide, but
Right.
I mean, a
Yeah,
lot of people
yeah,
saw
yeah,
that.
yeah. And Charlize Theron is
The Queen.
yes.
Yeah.
And Colin Farrell just walked by. And
And there are 2 Snow White movies that are being made right now, and this one is sort of
maybe
the
it'd be 3. But
yeah, and this one is sort of the darker, more grim fairy tale version of Snow White.
Yeah.
Although we don't really know much about the other one. but
Well, I
that's what
think
they were saying.
Tarsem is doing a grim fairy tale thing. But anyway, it's so here's the interesting thing about there's 8 dwarves instead
Yep.
of 7,
Yep.
and they are played by I'm gonna forget all of them, but like Ian
Ray
McShane,
Winstone.
Ray Winstone.
You're attacking
It's
me
like,
with names.
It's like
Toby
the,
Jones.
Yeah, it's like the British Dirty Dozen
Yeah.
as like the badass dwarf guys.
Yeah, he said I
You want to make a war movie?
I wanted
so
to make a war movie, and I decided to make this instead. And so he cast his British SAS team as dwarves.
So they show the concept art of what the characters look like in costume.
Well,
and
they
I
showed
think
the
the
concept
biggest
art
thing,
of the dwarves, and they showed actually pictures of the actors
That's what I
in
meant.
costume.
Right. And Kristen Stewart as Snow White is
They're
is in,
all grumpy.
Yeah.
and Kristen Stewart as Snow White is in battle armor.
Yeah, she looks
sword,
like
shield, badass,
Yep,
right?
Yeah, badass.
So, what do you think? And we saw also they showed footage basically the footage that he made to win over the studio to direct the movie.
Yeah.
So it was just test footage that he put together,
That
kind
was
of like
cool.
Tron.
Yeah, it was cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
but
do
it
you?
was totally-
What's your impression of this movie?
I mean, I'm super, super excited. I mean, I've been a huge fan of those Halo ODST ads. We're always like, anytime somebody can bring in, it reminds me of the Gears of War ad, the initial Gears of War ad.
He did one of the.
Where it
he
was
didn't
like,
do that one, but he did
no,
one
I
of
know,
the Gears
but
of War ads too.
Where I was like, wow, ads for video games can be as emotional as little films. So I'm really excited. I think he's going to do an amazing job. I also think that the casting is amazing. I mean, Chris Hemsworth, I just want to see him in anything right now.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Kristen Stewart. Hello. So I'm very
Yes.
excited that she's going to be kicking ass a little bit. So I'm super excited. I mean, this can't come out soon enough for me.
Yeah, me too.
So what you guys are saying are you're wishing for the one you saw, right?
I think that's exactly what we're saying.
All right.
Did it sound like that?
No.
All right, so moving on, we also saw
Haywire.
Haywire
Ghostrider.
and Ghostrider. So Haywire, real quick. Steven Soderbergh making a action spy movie starring Gina Carano, an MMA fightress,
Yeah.
and Michael Fassbender. We saw a trailer. I want to know what your impression of the trailer, but I will say that you guys left the room during the action scene, unless did you
know.
come back in?
No, I intentionally left the room in the action scene.
Okay. So what were your impressions of the trailer? Then I'll touch up on the action scene.
Here's what's so cool about this project. It's filmmaker Steven Soderbergh and good actors.
Filmmaker Steven Soderbergh.
And good actors and high production quality and top of the line excellent filmmaking basically making a genre, what would be a Cynthia Rothrock movie. It really is. It's a Cynthia Rothrock movie.
Our younger viewers have no idea who that is.
Cynthia
but-
Rothrock, yeah, she's
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
know,
Search
like a,
80s kick-ass girl.
yeah, it's like straight to video,
Yeah.
just martial arts movie,
Yes.
but done through the
Yeah.
prism of a great filmmaker. And that is awesome.
And not only that-
is, because it is that all the way.
Yeah.
It is just an ass kicking,
Oh, yeah.
like we hired this girl because she can kick ass and we want to shoot it, and we want to shoot it in long takes.
And that's the other thing is you buy her. You know what I mean? One of the things I loved Salt, but one of the comments that people were making was like, you know, you that's really suspension of disbelief that Angelina Jolie with the arms that look like they could be broken by a snail is actually kicking people's
Snails
ass.
are mean.
Is actually kicking people's ass. Whereas Gina Carano is a fighter, and
Yeah.
it was actually really fun to hear some of the things, you know, like
Yeah,
with
like-
well, I can't remember what the guy's name is. The
Michael
Channing
Fassbender.
Tatum.
Oh, Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum,
Right,
where he
yeah.
was like, "Yeah, hit me harder," and she knocked him unconscious.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
And
okay,
she seemed to
yeah.
hold her own from a dramatic perspective as well.
I was
at least
surprised.
from what
I mean,
they showed.
They didn't show much. They
Yeah.
showed a lot of like, yeah, what, okay, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Blown away. One of the most cogent, well choreographed fight sequences where you understand the reason for every. I remember
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino talking about when you do Kill Bill. I think this
Did
did
it.
it so well. And what's really incredible is that while the fight sequences are shot, actually it reminded me of the shooting in West Side Story. Like really, the perfect angles to display.
Bam!
No, the perfect angles to display that moment of action.
Yeah.
And really well choreographed camera work, but also, and I don't mean because it's moving all over the place, just well choreographed, but
Yeah.
also like as when the characters are walking in the foreplay of the action scene, that's shot like an independent film. It's shot
yeah.
like very untraditionally,
Soderbergh movie.
and
Yeah.
it's like letting it play out and untraditional editing and like it's
Yeah.
really so awesome. Ghostwriter.
Now the only reason why we're talking about Ghostrider is because of who's directing Ghostrider, in my opinion, right?
Yeah. So Ghostwriter is Nicolas Cage. Another follows up to his original Ghost Rider movie, but it's directed by the Crank directors, Neville Dean and Taylor. They also did Gamer. I never saw Gamer. We never saw Gamer on the show. I don't believe.
No.
So, but
Speaking of this, so at the Huntsman screening was the first time we ever saw a director's reel. This is by far the first time we ever saw video footage of the directors directing. As you need to see why this is awesome, and they do some crazy stuff, and it got me super excited
Which
for
was by
whatever
far
they're
the best
shooting.
thing that they showed was behind the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it's gonna be over the top nuttiness.
and see, it doesn't get me excited to see it because push comes to shove, when you see the footage that they shot doing the same thing, it looks.
The
they
one
didn't- they didn't
shot-
have to be doing
yeah,
that.
one
You were on
shot where it
rollerblades.
was-
You didn't need to be on rollerblades.
They didn't
No,
need to be
the
able to
rollerblades, I
just-
didn't get it, but the one shot where the director flies off and wires off the bridge, then the actor, then the car,
Yeah.
that shot in the really looked really cool, where you're behind him and he's shooting.
Yeah.
Because that shot would have been made CG, and there is something true.
Can I say of
Yeah.
all the things we saw at
Yeah.
Comic-Con? Granted, we already talked about
It's Star Wars
Amazing-
Old Republic, right?
We already talked about Amazing Spider-Man. Hopefully you saw that earlier in the week when
Yes,
we talked about Amazing
definitely.
Spider-Man and Total Recall. But of all the stuff we saw, nothing has me more excited than Tintin.
Ah.
I cannot wait for Tintin. I think it's going to
Interesting.
blow me away. I'm so thrilled by what the footage that we saw. It looks like vintage Spielberg, Indiana Jones kind of adventure tale.
I will say their panel totally turned me onto being like excited about the movie. I'm not as excited,
Might
but
be my most anticipated movie.
wow.
I'm with you, and adventure, yes. Art style, yes. And I don't see any dead eye situation
No.
in the motion
No.
capture. I'm confused by anyone who would make that. Yeah, great. I'm with you, dude.
Yeah.
Love.
Love it. Dude,
So we should-
Comic-Con 2011,
Yeah.
success can.
Do you want
Well,
to
really,
mention
I
the
wanna
one
say-
weird Francis Coppola thing, or no?
Well, it was weird.
It's weird. It was just weird.
Look up all of the things that
Yeah.
people are
It's
saying.
hard for
about
us to
Francis
even
Ford
describe
Coppola.
it.
I don't-
Yeah.
It was the most bizarre
It's just
thing I've
weird.
ever seen at Comic-Con.
You know what? Let me just
bar
mention it
none.
real quick, because it's just to not leave him hanging like that. But he basically wants to do a lot. He's talking about 3D and innovation or whatever, and the next, 3D is a fad, but there's other things, and he wants to do a live movie, live scored at the time
Yeah.
of the movie thing.
Live
Live
edited based
edited.
on-
I
what
think
people
I think
like.
he looked at a conductor of a symphony and said,
Yeah.
"I could be a conductor of a film."
Right.
By
And
it
that,
doesn't
and
work.
that
It's
statement,
weird.
That statement,
Seems
you would think,
awesome.
if anyone could pull that off, you'd say Francis Ford Coppola. He's gotten too old for this shit, I think. And there's now, so
I'm
it's
just
weird.
sad there was no Avengers here. There was no Dark Knight here.
Yeah.
Sad. It was an off year, I think, for Comic-Con. We saw some great stuff.
It was definitely a dip, but a Comic-Con dip is still a dip I want to be dipping my little sugar stick in and eating.
Guys, dip your hands into mine.
Dipping it. All right, everybody, stick around for all of the lovely outtakes from this week's shooting. But first, we want to thank our sponsors, Jeff Canada.
You, Alex,
Yes.
have a lovely set of ear holes.
I enjoy ear hole things.
I think they're a great place to stick stories in.
I agree.
I love Audible.com. Audible.com is the leading provider of downloadable digital audiobooks. Books, book reading, some of my favorite kind of entertainment. But it's very difficult oftentimes to have time to read, sometimes you fall asleep reading, but you can multitask, you can get things done by putting the sounds of people reading into your head, so you can be exercising, you can be doing
That'll
your
totally
chores.
keep you awake.
Yeah, I love it. I honestly love it. And Audible has over 75,000
Yep.
titles.
Yep.
And a galaxy of entertainment to be had.
There really is a galaxy of entertainment to be had.
Yes.
What's your favorite?
Yeah, what do you recommend?
I just recently finished listening to on Audible, Hunger Games, the first book of the Hunger Games. Did not love it.
You
but
finished and you didn't like it?
I have not 100%.
But
I'm very close. I have
you're
like
into-
under 45 minutes left. But it is.
I don't know what that means in pages.
But it is well read, and I have to say that. I didn't love the story, but it is well read, and if you're into that, if you have friends like Dan telling you to read it, it's a great way to do it. And you can get a free audiobook download of your choice when you sign up today. Just go to audiblepodcast.com/totallyrad for your free audiobook.
Amazing.
And check out what all the people have been talking
It's a
about.
Fradio book.
Stick some stories in your ear hole.
That should be their tagline. Today is July 27th, and on this day in not 1940.
Jinx.com/TRS, get free swag.
Free?
Swag?
It costs money.
45-day money-back guarantee. Don't like it? You don't like that 150%? Well, then that is your problem. Vamp. So head over to HostGator and use the coupon code TRS when you check out. The fucking prompter turned off, Mike.
That's why I said vamp.
I know. I was like, I could try to finish it out. It was almost done.
Stick some stories in your ear hole. Piff.
Dipping it. Mobile apps.
Yay!
Woo! 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 I'm smoking opium.